الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. I have recited this surah which is called Surah Al-Ikhlas just as an introduction to the subject of foundations of faith, and this surah is considered to be the main support or the main subject, and that's why Rasulullah ﷺ has mentioned that this surah in its rewards equals 1/3 of the Quran. So because it deals with the attributes of the Creator. And that is, you can imagine, is the most important aspect. So Imam Ghazali has started this subject, and in this he has given basically the first thing he talks about is that the wujud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wujud means the existence. That means is a being, a super being who is existent. So that is the first thing that he is. This is not just an idea or a concept, but it is a real being that is there, and he has his attributes, and that is what we have to learn. So it is a being. It is a being who created the whole universe. You see, there is a way, I must tell you first of all in the very beginning, that in Aqidah, explaining the Aqidah, there is one way which is a straightforward and simple way of explaining Aqidah, and which was, of course, this was the way at the time of Rasulullah ﷺ and the Sahaba, and even in the first generations, you can say, first century. Later on, when this Islam spread further and other civilizations, there was merging of other civilizations with Islam, and then there were people who had philosophies, and there were discussions on different subjects in those philosophies about the existence and so on and so forth. So some scholars developed the way of explaining the Aqidah in, you can say, more using logic and a style of, you can say, a philosophical style and logic for explaining the Aqidah of the existence of Creator and then the attributes of the Creator and so on. So that is later on, which is called Kalam, Ilm al-Kalam. And that is started later on. You see, almost can say after the, by the end or the last or second half of the second century. That's where it started about the Kalam. And that's where some scholars who are particularly known in the Aqidah, like Abu Mansur al-Maturidi or Abu al-Hasan al-Ashari. So that's what is called al-Ashari Aqidah. That means the way of explanation of Aqidah according to Ash'ari school. So there became two schools also, Ash'ari school and Maturidi school. And this is known as the al-Ash'ari or Maturidi, but they all use the Kalam. That means logical approach, a logical way of explaining the Aqidah. And then, as I said, there was a need for it because there were confusions created, and some of the people would need that support, you can say. The simple way is, I would say, whatever has come in Quran and whatever has been mentioned in Hadith about Allah and His attributes, that we have to learn from there and believe in it. This is a straightforward and simple way of learning the Aqidah as it was delivered to the believers by Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see? So that is the same thing which, after explaining all those, because Imam Ghazali, his approach is, he has not exactly used all the approach from that, but his substance, you can say, is on that basis of explaining the Aqidah according to the logical way, and then specifically some qualities, some attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are summarized, which are logically understandable. If there is a creator, he should have knowledge, he should have all the ability to do anything, he should be hearing, he should be seeing, he must be alive, he must be talking, we should have the ability of talking. So these, some of the attributes which are mentioned or being discussed would come out from that aspect. But must know that we believe in all the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are some of the names and attributes which are, of course, very relevant for any person to believe in. That means if Allah is hearing, Allah is seeing, and that's what a person should feel. That's what will come later on, that a person should feel. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك, and you worship Allah as if you see Him. If you don't see Him, then that He sees you. So these things, so these few, they sum it up with 20 attributes, you can say, but they are in reality, you can say 13, and there is another 7 added to it because one is doubled or multiplied. So I will explain that part later, how it is multiplied. But I'm not going in that detail in that part because it's not very necessary to understand and know. But the attributes which have been brought by Imam Ghazali and which are generally in the books of Aqidah, that I will go, and I will try to take it from Quran and Sunnah. That means from that as it is mentioned in Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it is known from the hadith of Rasulullah. So this is why I started with this, and we will need maybe more than one session for this part, because now, starting here, imagine there are 2 parts of the kalima. We say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasul. We be a witness that there is no deity except Allah, and we be a witness that Muhammad is a messenger. So that means these 2 parts we have to learn. This is Aqidah. And in the first part about the belief about the Allah, what do we believe about Allah? What we all know about Allah, for example. We cannot know everything about Allah. Nobody can encompass all His attributes and qualities. But what we know, what we should know, and what we generally are, because the Quran, if you look into it, it introduces Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His attributes with so many names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes, that you open any page of Quran and you'll find some names of Allah on it. Either Aziz or Hakim or Qadir or Aziz or Ghafoor, and every surah starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and so on. So that's why it is full of the attributes of Allah. That means it is introduction about Allah Himself. So the first thing is to know about. This is what I generally sometimes used to ask people. See, in some sessions, especially new Muslims, converts, for example, who have entered into Islam, but also those who have been in Islam, I used to ask sometimes this type of questions at what is Allah? And then they was, what do you mean when you say Allah? And they used to say, and then it had God. And I said, no, it's nothing. You didn't tell me what you know, what you mean when you say Allah. Because God is just another name in another language. In another language, they call him God. In some other language, they call him something else. So that's not the answer. You tell me what you believe about him. What is he? So that's the part which is very, very important, to know Allah. And the short way of explaining it is that when we say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, what do we mean? That's what is important. La ilaha illallah, that's fine. That's very important, that there is no deity except Allah, means there is no one worthy of worshipping except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then is he? What is he? What are his attributes? Have we any ability to connect to him? Is he closer to us or is far from us? Can he listen to what we say? And so many things. So that's the point where it comes, and that's why, as I said, in Quran, full of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No page you will find, and there are not several attributes are not mentioned in that page. So that's why what we used to say as a child, in my time, in our place where we were, the children were taught this, or the elders as well. We used to say that Iman Mujmal and Iman Mufassal. Iman Mujmal means in short, what is Iman? And Mufassal means in detail. What's Iman in detail? So Iman Mujmal was that we were taught that you say that Amantu Billahi, I believe in Allah. Kama huwa bi asma'ihi wa sifatihi, as he is with his names and his attributes. وَقَبِلْتُ جَمِيعَ أَحْكَامِهِ, and I accept all his commands. إِقْرَارٌ بِاللِّسَانِ وَتَصْدِيقٌ بِالْقَلْبِ. So, إِقْرَارٌ بِاللِّسَانِ, in confessing it with my tongue and believing it in my heart. This is in short. So here you see what is being mentioned. Asma'ihi wa sifatihi. I believe in Allah as he is. So what is he in his asma and sifat? Now there you cover all the asma and sifat in Quran. Whatever comes in. And there are so many. See, some mentioned 99 names. Is mentioned in a hadith. Allah has 99 names. Whoever memorizes it or remembers it, and that he will enter paradise. So 99 names, but it's not only 99. It's much more than that. There are some 99 names. In one of the hadiths, it has been also mentioned 99 names. But there are names which are not mentioned in those 99 names in that hadith. And we know that they are the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Quran, from hadith. So there are much more names. And that's where it means the importance of knowing Allah's names and attributes. That's how you recognize Allah. That's how you can admire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his greatness, through his names and attributes. What's the difference between name and attribute? Actually, in the scholars of Kalam, they have defined it because some of the sects refused or did not acknowledge the attributes. They acknowledge the names. For example, now what is the difference between name and attribute? And why it happens? The reason is because the philosophy, the Greek and other philosophies, they were conflicted with it and they were confused with it. Because just imagine, I tell you one thing. If you say Allah is Alim, Allah is Al-Qadir, Allah is Al-Hayy, Allah is Al-Qayyum, and so on. So Al-Alim, Al-Qadir, Al-Sami, Al-Basir, you added Al to it. This is called the name. This is the name of Allah. Al-Alim, Al-Qadir, Al-Sami, Al-Basir. And when you say Allah has knowledge and Allah is Alim with his knowledge, And Allah is Qadir with His Qudra. That means ability. So, knowledge, ability, sight or vision, hearing. So these are, they said, oh, this means you have more than one God then in that. So their God is not, so we don't believe in these. Allah has this in Him. So it's Alim and that's it. Not with the knowledge. But that is this, and he can understand that this is not an appropriate approach. Although they, in those days, from the philosophies of Greeks or whatever, they considered it as separate because an attribute is part of the person. Attribute is not something separate with which he uses it. That is not a separate existence. Attribute is the part of the being, not separate. So I just mentioned this part. I think we should not go in that much in these things, but I should focus more on what we have to learn. And that's why I will come up with, first of all, here in Surah Ikhlas, and then some other ayat in some other places, which mention some of those attributes which are commonly mentioned. So this is not that these are the only attributes. Our attributes are tremendous and many. Allah's names and attributes are uncountable, as I mentioned before, because we have a dua in which we make the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all His names, which He has given to Himself, or He has taught to any of His creation, or He has mentioned that in any of His books, or what He has kept to Himself in His secrets, has not told anybody. So we ask Allah with all His names, and then we mention all these things. This is in hadith. In As'aluka, that will take more time, but this is what I mentioned. That in dua, this is mentioned. So that means there is plenty of names. Some of the names which we have in Quran and Sunnah, that is in which we have to believe in it and think about it and ponder its meanings. So the first thing about it, first of all, that we know that Allah is one. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Allah is one. He is one. And now, one and unique, right? That means there is not like Him. These things, other places, I will bring it also to explain that one and unique. There is nothing like Him, nothing similar to Him, nothing parallel to Him. So that's all means He is one and unique. Allahu, Allahu Ahad. That's the difference between one. It's not one actually if you want to see the Ahad. It has more the meaning of unique. That means one and unique. Otherwise, Wahid, the number, Wahid is Isnan, Tulak, and so on. So it's not the number Wahid, it's not one, but it is Ahad. And this Ahad means its meaning is not only one. It means is one and unique. So this is first thing. And we should know, as the scholars of Quran talk about it, that Allah is the creator of everything. The rest of the things which we see in the universe, everything which we see in the universe is not, Allah has existed when there was nothing, and then He created it. This is we'll learn also, and when I come to that verse from Surah Al-Hadid, I'll talk about this there. But the first thing here, that He is one and unique. And this is mentioned in another place, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. That's in another place in Surah Ash-Shura. It is mentioned that لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. There is nothing like Him. So Allah, there is no likeness of Him in anything. And He is not like anything. So that's why we have to understand that if the people make any image or any picture or any shape or any form in their mind, or they make a statue or whatever it is, it's not God. It's not Allah. because that's the creation of the person, his own mind. And he's creating from what he has seen and what he understands and imagines. And Allah is beyond his imagination. So Allah, that's why it means, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ. So forget about all that. And even those attributes, when we go a little deep in that, we'll find that these attributes of Allah are eternal with him, and how any vast it is. So for the time being, first of all, let us say Allahu Ahad. This is the first part, that Allah is one and unique. Allahu Samad, it is mentioned here. And Samad actually is the one who needs none, no one. And everyone needs him. So Allah is self-independent. He doesn't need anybody or anything. He doesn't need. He is self-sustained, al-qiyam bin-nafs. He's by himself. He doesn't need anything or anyone. He is by himself. And everything needs him. Everything, the universe needs him. So that is a samad. And this is clear. That part which is mentioned in Kalam, they talk about it, that of course there are two types of creation. We see things. The things which were not there before, and they have come into existence. And all the things which we see, they are like that. These are called hadith. The things which have been created, which were not there before, and they will finish, they will end. So these are the things which are called hadith. They were possible existence. It was possible for them to come into existence, and it is possible for them again to disappear. And then these things, they cannot make other things. So these things, they need a creator for themselves. And that creator has to be self-sufficient and doesn't need anything. And that's why that's called, because if you go back and this was created by this and this, so you can keep on going, no end. There has to be the one who started the creation, he has to be out of this chain. And he was there. So that's why Allah is, as in, we'll go into the next, the beginning verses of Surah Al-Hadid, هُوَ الْأَوَّلُ وَالْآخِرُ وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ, that we will learn about there. But here, let's go to the next. Here again, لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ explains the further, that he لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. He doesn't beget and he was not begotten. You see, so he has no, you can say, this is again the uniqueness, because there is none like him. If he begets, then he will, the one who is begotten will be like the one who has, gives birth to it, right? So that's why he has no family, no son, no daughters, no father, no mother, nothing. He is by himself. So lam yalid wa lam yulad. Again, it is in response to those who thought that Allah has daughters. Some of these people who considered that the angels are the daughters of Allah, and there are people still, you have that the Christians, they believe that Jesus Christ, the Isa alayhi salam, was the son of Allah, God, and so on. So this is to negate that he doesn't have like him. It is none like him. So lam yalid kufuwan ahad, this again an emphasis on that. And there is no equivalent. Kuf means someone who is equivalent to him. Nor is there any equivalent to him, you can say. Lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. So this is all about the uniqueness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, after that, I said to you, is another part, which is in Surah Al-Hadid, the beginning of Surah Al-Hadid. Yeah, the very beginning. سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. This is first ayah. Then the second ayah, لَهُ مُلْكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. See, some names are coming here and some attributes are coming here. Then the one which I said before, هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. Let me start with this part. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن. This is the third verse. وهو بكل شيء عليم. There are many qualities mentioned here. الأول, and Rasulullah says, هو الأول فليس قبله شيء وهو الآخر فليس بعده شيء وهو الظاهر فليس فوقه شيء وهو الباطن فليس دونه شيء. So this is what it means, that there was none before him. Awwal, there is none before him. And this is another reason in which it mentions that كان الله وما كان معه شيء. There was Allah and there was nothing with him. So هو الأول. Awwal means without any beginning. It is not that there was Allah. Allah was there always. There was no beginning for Allah. Wal awwal means there was nothing before him. That's what Rasul say. Awwal walaysa qablahu shay'un. And similarly, akhir. Akhir doesn't mean that he is the last, but it means that there will be nothing. There is nothing after him. That means he is endless. He is no beginning, no end. There is no beginning for Allah. There is no end for Allah. So he is eternal. You see? So that's what it means. Awwalu wal akhir. So he was there and there was nothing. And he will be there when there will be nothing. So this is what are the two qualities here. Awwal wal azaliyun al-abadi. He was from the beginning. There was nothing before him, and there will be nothing after him. That means when he will be there, and there will be nothing. So that's how it is to be understood. وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ. Zahir means above all. And here above is in two meanings. One meaning of actually above means above all the creation. That means Allah is above the whole creation. And all the seven heavens and everything above that, all the cosmic things which we see, all about the above all the seven skies. And then above that is the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above the arsh. So, but on the same time, he is close. Zahir. Zahir also means who is dominant, who controls everything, who is in power of everything. And that's what was in the previous verse of this, that lahul mulku samawati wal ardu, whatever it is, what was mentioned, and it's mentioned in many places, that everything that belongs is under Allah's control, and He's the creator, and He is the sustainer of everything. Now here, after that, وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ, and He knows everything. See, He knows everything. So here we have these three names, Awwal, Akhir, Zahir, Batin, and Alim. But the thing which we can consider here now is about Alim. He is all-knowing. And then before this, the ayah, number 2, Lahu mulku samawati wal ard. That means to Him belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. Yuhyi wa yumit, gives life and causes death. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, and He is capable of doing everything. عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. So now, that's the verse, the name Al-Qadir. Al-Alim, Al-Qadir. The sifa is Alim. Alim is Al-Alim is the name, and Al-Qadir is the name from Qudra. So these two names, Alim, Qadir, are to be remembered again here from this part. So now, the third thing which I wanted to mention, and I can mention it today, and then we'll have some things from from Ayatul Kursi next time, inshallah. But here, now after this, let's go to Surah Shura. And in Shura, this is ayah number 11, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again mentions two things. Fatiru samawati wal ard. The creator of the heavens and the earth. So Allah is the Fatir, Khaliq, you can say. Fatir and Khaliq. What is the difference between Fatir and Khaliq? Fatir is the one who creates with no previous example. See, that means the initiator, the founder, the first one who creates without any previous example. Fatiru samawati wal ard, that means the creator of the heavens and the earth. And then said, Jala lakum min anfusikum azwajum wa min al-an'ami azwaja yadra'ukum fih. This part is, we'll pass it here. It only mentions that he has created the pairs amongst you, the mates, or you can say the pairs, and also in the cattle, that means in the animals, also they are mates, and he multiplies you. That means he multiplies you in this way. And then the part which is important for us now, related to the attributes, that is laysa kamithlihi shay'un. There is nothing like him. Very important verse, must be always remembered. Whenever we talk about this, I'll mention later on how sometimes it is very helpful to know nothing, whatever comes to your mind about Allah, which is not mentioned, any picture, any idea, remember that it is not Allah. So laysa kamithlihi shay'un, there is nothing like him. And then huwa as-sami' al-basir. These two sifat of sama' wal-basar. He is and he hears. So that means, imagine from here what we have to learn, that it doesn't mean that Allah needs some kind of he has body parts like a ear or an eye to see or an ear to hear. No. Never imagine anything like that. He hears. Laysa kamithlihi shay'un. There is nothing like him. That means if you think about any ear or any eyes, you are going into darkness. You don't know what you're talking about, because Allah doesn't have body parts or anything like that. He is one, unique. He doesn't have any limbs or parts and things like that. So whatever comes in the mind is wrong. So here, that's why it is important that at the same time, when it is mentioned that he is Sami'u al-Basir, it's also mentioned laysa kamithlihi shay'un. First it is mentioned laysa kamithlihi shay'un. There is nothing like him. And he is Sami'u al-Basir. He sees and hears. That's Allah's quality. So today we have a few of those. That the first is the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we had about that he was there when there was nothing, and he will be there when there will be nothing. So he is the awwal wal akhir, eternal, without any end. And then we learned about that he is al-Qadir. He has the power to create or do whatever he wants to create. And then we learned about that he is, and we had about the Alim, that he has the knowledge, the Alim. And then we see that he is Al-Basir and Sami. So these are some of the attributes which are mentioned in the discussion by Imam Ghazali also, and those which are the people of Kalam talk about these, particularly these are Al-Qudrah, Wal-Sama' Wal-Basar, Al-Qudra, Wal-Ilm, and there are some others which we will talk about it. So this is to remember this part, and laysa kamithlihi shay'un, that's very important to remember. There is nothing like it. And then we'll have in Surah Ayatul Kursi Al-Hayy, that he is living. So we will talk about that and some other Al-Qayyum, Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum, and about the irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the will of Allah, that he has a will, and he does whatever he wills. So these are some other attributes, and he speaks. Kallam Allah Musa taklima. Some of these attributes we'll talk about it next time, inshallah, and some other things, inshallah. So today we finish at this point, inshallah. I finished it in half an hour, and remember these verses. First Surah Al-Ikhlas, and then the first 3 verses you can look into it more. The third verse actually has more, but the second verse has the Qadir, the Sifa of Qudra, that means the ability to create. And then Awwal wal Akhir wal Zahir wal Batin, that he is all above, but he is also very close, as it is mentioned in the Quran, that Allah is closer to you than your jugular vein. So Allah is not far from you. He is far. He is above everything, at the same time very close to his creation. But he is not a part of the creation. And no created thing can become a part of him. Very important. This is what the Kalam people talk it a lot. That he cannot, nothing can become a part of him, and he is not a part of anything. Very important to know this. Distinct, separate. There is nothing like him. Because these are some of the confusions in other faiths that the people think about, for example, incarnation and so these things. For example, if you talk a Christian, he would say, yes, he was God incarnate. That means the God was dwelling in him. That's stupidity. God doesn't enter in anything. And nothing can enter in God, because there are other concepts. They think that when we die, we are good, we have done righteous good and deeds, then we will become the part of the God. That's another stupid idea. So these ideas have to be known, that these are not a part of Allah. Allah doesn't enter in anything, and nothing enters into him. He is distinct, separate, and he has all these attributes and qualities which we are talking about. Today we talked about his oneness and uniqueness. We talked about his qudra, that means his ability to do anything, and his ilm, that means he is, and that he was always there when there was nothing, and then he created everything, and he will be there always and ever when there will be nothing, when he destroys everything. And then, of course, that he is Sami and Basir. He sees and listens, and this particularly is important in our behavior. This has a very important aspect to watch our behavior. So maybe this is enough for today, and we will continue inshallah next week.